Everyone thought Daniel Carter was a lucky man, successful career, beautiful wife, perfect suburban life. But what no one knew was that the night he discovered the truth, something inside him died quietly, and something far more dangerous took its place. Because betrayal doesn't always create broken men, sometimes it creates patient ones. Daniel had been married to Emily for 11 years, and for most of that time he believed love was built on trust, routine, and small sacrifices, the kind you don't notice until they pile up. Like him working late nights as a financial analyst in Chicago, while Emily slowly drifted into a world he didn't belong to anymore. The first crack appeared on an ordinary Tuesday when Daniel came home early due to a cancelled meeting and noticed Emily's phone buzzing on the kitchen counter. A name flashing on the screen that wasn't saved, just a number. And although he had never checked her phone before, something about the way she rushed in from the shower and snatched it away planted a seed of doubt that refused to die. Days turned into weeks, and Daniel started noticing patterns: late gym sessions, sudden business dinners, a smile on her face that wasn't meant for him, and, instead of confronting her, he watched, because denial is loud but observation is quiet, and quiet gives you power. One evening while Emily slept beside him, Daniel unlocked her phone using the code he had memorized years ago and scrolled through messages that confirmed everything he feared and more. Romantic texts, secret plans, hotel reservations, and a name that appeared again and again: Mark Reynolds. Mark wasn't a stranger. He was Daniel's colleague, a rising star at the same firm, someone Daniel had personally recommended for promotion. And that realization hurt more than the affair itself. In that moment, Daniel felt rage, humiliation, and heartbreak crash into each other. But instead of waking Emily or storming out, he locked the phone, placed it back exactly where it was, and lay there staring at the ceiling, realizing that the man he was yesterday no longer existed. If you're already hooked into this story, take a second to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment part 2 if you want to see how far betrayal can really go, because this is just the beginning. From that night on, Daniel became a different version of himself: calmer, quieter, observant, playing the role of the loving husband while secretly collecting evidence, screenshots, call logs, emails, and even financial records that showed Mark had been using company resources to fund the affair. Daniel smiled at Emily, kissed her goodbye every morning, listened to her lies with polite interest, and all the while built a plan that wasn't fueled by anger but by precision. He knew confronting her would only lead to apologies, tears, and manipulation. And he didn't want closure. He wanted justice on his own terms. Daniel started staying later at the office, not because of work, but to understand Mark's weaknesses, discovering his ambition outweighed his caution, that he had been skimming small amounts from accounts to maintain his lifestyle, confident no one would notice. At home, Emily grew careless, convinced Daniel was blind, and began pushing boundaries, sometimes coming home past midnight without explanations, sometimes picking fights just to justify her distance, and Daniel took it all without reacting, because reactions were what she expected. One weekend, Daniel followed her, watching from a distance as she walked into a boutique hotel downtown and disappeared inside with Mark, and instead of confronting them, Daniel took photos, time-stamped, undeniable proof, and sat in his car feeling strangely calm, because now he knew exactly how this would end. He consulted a lawyer quietly, learned his rights, structured his finances, and made sure every move he planned was legal, because revenge that backfires isn't revenge, it's stupidity. Daniel also scheduled a private meeting with the company's internal audit department, presenting the financial discrepancies anonymously, ensuring an investigation would begin without his name attached. Weeks passed, and Emily sensed something different, asking Daniel if he was okay, accusing him of being distant. But he only smiled and said work was stressful, watching guilt flicker across her face like a weak candle. The final piece of the puzzle came when Daniel discovered Emily was planning to leave him, not out of love for Mark, but because Mark had promised her a better life, more money, and freedom, a promise built entirely on lies. Daniel realized then that both of them underestimated him in the same way assuming silence meant weakness, and that mistake would cost them everything. On the night before their anniversary, Emily told Daniel she needed space, and Daniel nodded, hugged her, and told her he understood, because by then the trap was already set, and all that remained was timing. If you've made it this far, comment betrayal below, because what happens next proves that patience is more dangerous than anger. And Daniel's revenge unfolds with chilling logic and a ending no one saw coming. The day Daniel chose to end everything was the same day Emily believed she had finally won. because sometimes revenge works best when the other side is celebrating too early. Daniel invited Emily to a quiet dinner at home, cooked her favorite meal, and spoke calmly about their future, giving her just enough comfort to lower her guard. And when she went to bed, he stayed awake, not out of pain, but because he knew the next 48 hours would permanently change all their lives. The following morning, Daniel filed for divorce, submitting irrefutable evidence of infidelity, ensuring the terms favored him completely. And by noon, Emily was served papers at her workplace, the shock on her face described later by co-workers as unforgettable. She called Daniel repeatedly, crying, apologizing, begging to talk, but Daniel didn't answer, because explanations were a privilege she had already spent. At the same time, the internal audit report landed on the desk of senior management, and Mark was called into a meeting he expected to be about promotion, only to walk out suspended pending investigation, his confidence collapsing when he realized someone had been watching him all along. By evening, rumors spread through the office, and by the end of the week, Mark was terminated and facing potential legal action, the career he built on shortcuts and betrayal dissolving faster than he could explain it away. Emily, desperate and panicked, went to Mark for comfort, only to discover that the man who promised her everything was now drowning in his own problems, blaming her for distractions, resenting her presence, and suddenly unwilling to commit to a future that now offered nothing but uncertainty. Daniel, meanwhile, moved out, temporarily not out of defeat, but strategy, allowing Emily to sit alone in the house that once symbolized security, now echoing with consequences. He blocked her on social media, communicated only through lawyers, and focused on rebuilding himself quietly, knowing true revenge isn't loud, it's permanent. Months passed, and the divorce finalized exactly as Daniel planned. Assets protected, reputation intact, truth documented, while Emily struggled with the reality that the fantasy she destroyed her marriage for had never been real. Mark disappeared from their social circle, his name becoming a cautionary tale whispered in office hallways, and Emily found herself isolated, betrayed by the same man she helped betray her husband. One evening she showed up unannounced at Daniel's new apartment, thinner, tired eyes, heavy with regret, telling him she understood now that she made a mistake, that she still loved him. But Daniel listened without anger or joy, realizing he felt nothing at all, and that was the moment he knew he had truly won. He didn't yell, didn't insult her, didn't he remind her of the pain. He simply told her that the man who loved her trusted her, and she destroyed him, and the man standing in front of her no longer needed revenge because justice had already been served. If this story made you feel something, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more mature stories, and comment your thoughts below, because your engagement helps this channel grow and brings you more powerful stories like this. Daniel closed the door gently, not out of kindness, but because he had learned that closure doesn't come from confrontation, it comes from Years later, Daniel remarried not because he feared being alone, but because he understood love better, now while Emily lived with the weight of choices she could never undo. And Mark remained a reminder that ambition without integrity always destroys itself. The logic was simple and cruelly fair. Betrayal exposed itself, patience executed the plan, and revenge didn't require violence or chaos, only truth, timing, and the strength to walk away. And that's how a betrayed husband didn't just survive, he reclaimed his life, proving that sometimes the most powerful revenge is letting people watch the consequences of their own actions unfold, with no one left to blame but themselves.